Welcome to episode 2. Today we'll be discussing one of the most important parts of action scenes, geography. No, not that kind of geography.
Oh.
You're a real blue flame special, aren't you, son?
This is my sister Mary.
Hello.
So Mary, have you ever seen the James Bond movie Quantum of Solace?
No.
Perfect. So right now, I'm going to show Mary part of the opening car chase to Quantum of Solace, and then we'll see if she can tell me what happens in that scene. Ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So what happened in that scene?
Bond is in a car, and he's getting chased by another car. But it's very difficult to tell which car is which. The truck... Yeah, something got stuck in the truck.
You know why a thing happened with the truck?
No, I actually thought it was gonna careen off the tunnel or whatever and go through the wall.
So Mary, while watching this, would you say you were more excited or confused?
Very confused.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you're beginning your movie with an action scene like this, and your audience reacts like this, that's a problem. So what exactly is the problem with this scene? Ask most people and you'll probably get the same answers. The editing is too fast, or shaky cam. But those aren't actually the problem. Those are causes of the problem. The problem is that we can't understand the geography of the scene. When we talk about the geography of the scene, we're not talking about the location on the map where the scene takes place. We're talking about the spatial relationships between the characters and objects within the setting. When we slow this scene down, it's apparent that exciting things are happening. Right here, Bond is being chased by some bad guys with guns. While shooting at him, they hit a truck, causing it to spin out of control, creating a dangerous obstacle Bond has to evade. On paper, this is a good example of the kind of good action storytelling I talked about in episode 1. But the way it's told visually, the geography is so unclear that it's hard to make out what's happening. Right off the top, as Mary pointed out, a major issue is that both Bond and the bad guys are driving cars that are almost impossible to tell apart. And the scene doesn't even clearly establish where Bond is. We get a whole bunch of shots of the outside of cars and even the bad guys before we see this. A quick glimpse of Daniel Craig's head from behind that lasts for only 10 frames. Not even half a second. Just long enough for us to think, wait, is that him? Then there's this shot, from within one of the cars driven by the bad guys. It's the shot that should set up the truck, which is about to get shot and spin out of control. But the truck is in the background, looking tiny in the frame, and we're distracted because Bond's car is right next to a bunch of other dark-colored cars, so we're too busy trying to tell which car is Bond's to notice the truck. Also, the shot lasts for 18 frames, 2/3 of a second, which is not nearly enough time for the viewer to grasp the visual information that's supposed to be communicated. A second later, we get a close-up of the truck's wheels as they get shot, but at this point, we don't know where the truck is. We then get a bunch of quick shots of it crashing against the wall, including a clearer shot of this nameless truck driver than we've had of our hero yet. When we do finally get some proper shots of Bond reacting from inside his car, it's more than halfway through this piece of action. The suspense of this scene is meant to come from whether or not Bond will escape the bad guys and avoid danger. But when we can't tell where he is in relation to the bad guys or the danger, there's no suspense. But right now, I want to step back and let someone who is much smarter than me talk about geography.
Geography is one of the most important things to me, so the audience isn't thrown into chaos trying to figure out the story you're telling. The audience needs to be clearer than you. I can create suspense if the audience knows where all the players are and they know what the stakes are. The suspense of that sequence is letting the audience know geographically where everybody is at all times.
Steven Spielberg is better than almost anyone who's ever lived at crafting exciting, suspenseful action sequences. You know, like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. So when he talks about the importance of geography, we should probably listen to him. If you look at any of his action scenes, he makes the geography super clear right from the start. At the beginning of the T-Rex attack in Jurassic Park, he lays out exactly where the Jeeps are in relation to the fence and who is in which Jeep. In the truck chase in Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can't get much clearer than this shot of Indy looking down at the whole caravan of enemy vehicles. We know where Belloc is, and we know where the Ark is. So back to Quantum of Solace. This movie is part of the post-Bourne style of action filmmaking that's full of quick cuts and shaky cameras. This style gets a lot of hate, but it's not all deserved. So let's look at the car chase from the Bourne Supremacy, the first movie in the series directed by Paul Greengrass, which pretty much started this whole style. This scene is really chaotic, but compared to Quantum of Solace, it seems totally clear. This scene has three main participants: Jason Bourne, the police, and Karl Urban. One thing that's really helpful is that they're all in very different, distinct vehicles. Bourne is in a bright yellow taxi, the police are in police cars, and Karl Urban is in a big black Land Rover. So unlike the Quantum of Solace chase, here we know what character we're looking at just from seeing the outside of the car. Another thing that's really helpful is that throughout the scene, the action will continually move in the same direction. So even when the camera is shaking around inside the car, and it gets really shaky, it's still moving left to right. Greengrass mostly alternates between tight, shaky close-ups and then clear wide shots that establish the geography. So we see Bourne and the cops drive by, and then a few seconds later from the same angle, Karl Urban drives by and takes a different road, so we know exactly where everyone is in relation to one another. We still have the feeling of chaos that Quantum of Solace wants, but without the confusion. You know those long takes people freak out over so much? Well, beyond them being impressive on a technical level, the reason they're often as effective as they are is that, due to the lack of cuts, the audience is more immersed in the scene. There's only a single perspective happening, so the geography is clear at all times. Whenever there's a cut, our brains have to reorient to the new point of view and work out its geographic connection to the previous shot. When done effectively, you don't even notice. When done poorly, it leads to this. The clearer the geography, the clearer our mental image of the scene is. Each shot usually only shows a piece of the action, so if the geography is clearly established, we'll grasp the context of each shot. To bring this back to what I talked about in episode 1, an action scene functions like a short story. Action beats, like, say, the truck getting shot and spinning out of control, are like plot points. If these action beats aren't clear, then the audience can't follow the story. Instead of being immersed in the action, they're struggling to work out what exactly they're watching. And geography really matters when dealing with something like a battle scene, which takes place on a much larger scale, and usually the location factors significantly into the story. Much of the Matrix Revolutions consists of the big battle for Zion, as the machines invade and the humans attempt to hold them off. But the problem is that throughout this movie, we never really understand the geography of Zion. If the machines get through one wall, what happens? Where do they go? What part are the humans actually trying to protect? But in something like the Battle of Helm's Deep in The Two Towers, the geography is all made clear to us right from the start.
Helm's Deep has one weakness. Its outer wall is solid rock, but for a small culvert at its base.
We see the outside walls, the different entrances that need to be protected, and where the main characters are located. So when Saruman's army blows up part of one wall, we understand that this means they'll have access to the inner courtyard. Since we always understand the geography, we always understand the stakes, and are more immersed in the scene. If the geography is unclear, if the audience isn't entirely aware of where the characters are and what is happening, then instead of engaging with the scene and, being excited, they're exerting brainpower trying to figure out what's happening. Bad geography makes for bad, unexciting action. It's why no one remembers this scene from only 6 years ago, while this scene will still be talked about 100 years from now. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching, and sorry this was a little bit late. This happened to me earlier this year where I made too many video essays in a row, and for me, personally, editing the same kind of thing over and over again gets agonizing by the end. So, gotta change up the style and format a little bit to keep myself excited about things, so the next couple of videos just won't be essays, but they'll still be great. There's very cool stuff on the way that we've been shooting that I'm excited about, and we've got to start figuring out that Christmas video for this year, don't we? Anyway, if you like these videos and you want to help us make more of them, check out the Patreon. If you want to yell at me about stuff, and get updates on the things that we're working on, follow me on all the social media links. Shout out to Andrew Dunsing and Brian Gaston, and I will see you later this week, trying to get back to a Wednesday schedule, but later this week.